Hi there, and welcome to your daily briefing. I've been going through the numbers, lucky old me, and the conclusions that can be drawn are predictable, but they make for particularly worrying reading. There's going to be a little bit of referring to Mourinho because obviously he was the last guy, and I know some people get upset about that, or they certainly got upset about mentioning Pochettino, what they felt was unnecessarily. But there is a little bit of there's a continuity thing here which we cannot fundamentally ignore. My big concern is the infrastructure at Spurs, which is a curious thing to say for a club that has prided itself on, this magnificent training facilities, which more or less everybody else has now. I don't know if many of you, excuse me, get out, but most decent-sized clubs have, really good tech, really good equipment, and aren't really using ploughed fields anymore. And the only place that you will find them to be a little bit substandard are very atypical places, say like Melwood up in Liverpool. I've been there, and it's bizarre. There's like a big brick wall about 10, 11 foot tall around the place, and then there's residential housing, and it's literally a series of fields. And when Rafa was there, he infamously built like a hill just to sort of break it up and creates a challenge for them. But the point I'm getting at here is that all of these clubs, they all have this stuff now, and the Tottenham offer is not this exclusive thing. So what really concerns me is the infrastructure, whereby we have all these other guys that were on the coaching thing have just been bypassed, and Mason is at the front of the queue. Like I said previously, we had this business of him spouting about, the fabulous stadium, the amazing facilities. It's very old hat. I mean, big clubs, genuine, serious big hitters, top operators, do not say, it would be great to have a meeting with you on Thursday, and we've got a fantastic restaurant. You will not believe it. And the coffee, people expect top of the range stuff now. And I always made this line, this play about at the Spurs, whereby I've been outside the village. I've been to really nice places, and for me, this new stadium, it's on the par with like your average Hilton or something, and that's not the whole hill of beans. It's not a big Shazam. It's just kind of very nice. And if you lived in a tower block in Birmingham or something, you'd probably be absolutely wowed to spend the afternoon there. But the reality is, it's only it's not really, it's not all guns blazing in Dubai, for example. So anyway, he comes out with the thing about the facilities, the world class. And after the Leeds game, and bear in mind, I'll come back to this in a minute, I've just been through the goals. Ryan Mason told the press he thought that we were the fittest team in the Premier League. This is nonsense. This is like, what do they call him? Chemical Alley or Comical Alley out of the Gulf War. With there's tanks in the background, and he's going, we are very, very, very pleased to be here, and we don't anticipate. And, and there's NATO handing out chocolate bars to small children behind him. Just surreal. And it is embarrassing. It's fundamentally embarrassing. Not going to touch on the managerial subject in this chat, because I don't believe there's anything more to say than there was yesterday. And I don't think I think it's highly unlikely we're going to have anything sensational to discuss, even when we appoint the next guy. Looking at the players, I'll keep this quite, because I haven't mastered the whole jiggery pokery of videos and background effects and all the rest of it. And having somebody describe the Mona Lisa down the phone to you, or in the respect of this, a multiple car pile-up on a motorway, isn't particularly successful. So let's keep this hopefully punchy, and so I can get the message across. We were told by fans wiser than us that Jose Mourinho was a bad thing, a force for evil. And that just as he'd done with some other deadbeats at previous places he'd operated, he'd caused friction and shunned certain players. And I, being a lunatic who only deals in rational thought, with a little bit of opinion, but based upon many years in service, watching this rubbish, was very sceptical of this, because you've got a bunch of half-wits that have won nothing, and you've got a serial winner. You know, this is how people operate in court cases. It's believability of witnesses. So, anyway, looked at the numbers of the Leeds game, and two of the core players that we were told had been frozen out by the dinosaur, by the Portuguese Pulis, were Dele Alli and Gareth Bale. So, Leeds United, they started before a ball was kicked in 11th. I think they've now gone up to 7th, 9th, not sure. But they went up a couple of spots. But the point being is they weren't in 5th. They weren't in 2nd. So this is a team that struggled. And two of the core stats that I use, because I always say football is so simple, even you and I can understand it, are successful actions and successful passing accuracy. Now, the reason for using those, and not to the exclusion of all others, because otherwise you get chances like Harry Winks will slip through the net, is the fact that successful actions is so broad, such an umbrella term. So that includes throw-ins, free kicks, passing, everything, actions, moments where you're interacting with the ball and what have you. So this gives you a really good average of how that player was. It allows you to determine, get a real at a glance flavour of the qualities, the dimensions of the player. Dele Alli against Leeds was 45%. Now, if you think of that in the most simple terms, tossing a coin up in the air, you do that all day. The odds never change, it's 50-50. Now, the only time that the coin isn't going to come down heads, or it isn't going to come down tails, is if, what do you call it when a coin lands on its side in a crack in a pavement? I can't remember what the terminology is for us, escaping now. But it doesn't count, the coin lands on a crack in the pavement or on a little stone or something. It's not level, didn't get a chance to fall fairly. So Dele Alli, his actions for Tottenham against Leeds were worse than tossing a coin in the air. So what happened to the skill and the shimmy and the shazam and the magic? It'd be more predictable, the outcome, tossing a coin in the air than giving the ball to Dele Alli. Gareth Bale made him look like an absolute fool. Well, not really. 51%. So again, just notionally more trustworthy than the toss of a coin. I played football at school, like we all did, and there were certain players who, bless them, you wouldn't, unless you had to, pass the ball to, because you knew they weren't brilliant. And it could be a little bit tetchy sometimes, because frequently you get people, and well, I didn't want to, because invariably you lose the ball or you kick it out, or you miss kick or something, and you had those kids. Dele Alli and Gareth Bale are those kids for Spurs. They're the kids that you don't want to pass the ball to. Yet, hang on, didn't that crazy Portuguese guy, didn't he? Oh, that's right. He took the training. He knew that. And we had the business with Bale, with the Instagram thing, where he said, great fitness, a training session, and Mourinho came out in his press and he said, no, you pulled up lame, wanted a scan, we gave you a scan, it didn't show anything. You know? So, the point of looking at these numbers is to try and learn something. And learning from a 3-1 defeat to a team beneath you in the table is a rare trick if you can pull it. But if we look at Mourinho, if we look at Moura, Lucas Moura, his successful actions, 60%. Now, he's only on for 28 minutes. And it was a bit of a farcical thing because he came on and managed to create 3 fouls from positions where he was actually in possession of the ball. Work that one out. But if we put that to one side, to put that down to being a crazy but lovable Brazilian, 60% passing accuracy in a game that you're going down the tubes with is commendable. It's not brilliant, but for 28 minutes, if you turn it to 90, that 60 gets up into the the 80th percentile is where you're really demonstrating to people that you can kind of pass the ball. And speaking of which, when we look at his passing rate, and he didn't have that many touches, but the point being is that he had 90% successful in his passing accuracy. So we've got a guy for political reasons and not football reasons, because Moura used to get a game under the Portuguese guy, the twisted fire starter, the nut job. And for political reasons, Dele and Bale are playing ahead of him, neither of whom are fit to play a full 90 minutes in the Premier League. You can get more out of Bale if you're playing for Wales against Belarus ladies or whatever it might be. And Dele Alli, whether you like to hear it or not, was never injured, and he spent all of his time, I don't know what he was doing, maybe he was consulting with barbers or doing something imperative of that nature, but he didn't keep himself fit. That boy hasn't played 90 minutes for anybody, and only under Ryan Mason we get this business of, impressed in training, as if prior to that the training thing didn't matter what you did because there was this really grumpy foreign bloke who you just couldn't, he wasn't going to pick anybody. He knew who he was going to pick because he wasn't right, he was bent, he was bad for business, bad for morale. But that wasn't true because we've got Bale, who can't give us a full 90 minutes. And we've got Dele Alli, who's still huffing and puffing on 70. So, the other point, and I'll make this brief because I prefer the podcasts to be longer and these are just sort of updates, briefings, the whole brief. So, I then went through the goals, and I should be getting paid danger money for this because this isn't just watching them the first time. This is slowing the thing down, still by still by still, looking at the positioning, looking at what happened, where the attack came from, what we did to respond to that attack, and then, without being, particularly nasty or aggressive, looking to see who was responsible. And sometimes you just have to say, well, it was a masterstroke by the opposing player. But look at these goals. Dallas's goal, Eric Dyer. Again, I'm an internationally renowned football expert, as you can imagine. But I played football. I used to play in defence, and positionally, you don't want your back to your opponent. You want to be facing your opponent. That gives you an advantage because, now don't tell anybody I told you this, your eyes are set in the front of your head. And Dyer gets into this thing, and if you watch, I'll put the video up on theboyhotspur.com. I'll put the video up so you can have a look at it. And again, Dyer, he's got his body half turned. So he does this weird thing of where the ball comes in, and it's all down the left-hand side because Bielsa knows that's where the welcome mats are placed out. The ball comes down the left-hand side, and then the ball comes across. And with Eric Dyer, the ball is allowed to pass across the 6-yard box, across the 6-yard line, which is a massive no-no. No matter who's in control of the ball, whether it's your team or theirs, you don't allow that to happen. So his body language is wrong, and then his decision-making is wrong. The Bamford goal, that was Toby Alderweireld. And again, have a look at the thing. This is like describing a photograph down the phone, so I'll try and wrap it up. But Toby should have been looking to his inside post, to the near post. But he didn't. And there were more Tottenham players in the 6-yard box and the penalty area, generally speaking, than there were Leeds. Yet Leeds knew what they were doing. That's how complicated the Bamford goal was. Leeds knew what they were doing. And Tottenham are slow to think, and then they make bad decisions, which is a really nasty cocktail. And the Rodriguez goal, don't even forget about it. That goal was like playing on the training pitch against cones. And that takes us back to where we came in. That the infrastructure in the club, you've got a guy who's in La La Land, the fittest team in the Premier League. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. We were pretty fit in our heyday under Pochettino, but that was several years ago. Right, I'm going to carry on trawling through the numbers. I wish you well. Subscribe, ring the bell, hit like, tell your friends. There's free ice cream, whatever it takes. Good luck. Keep it on.